justice. It just is truly so unfair. But I'll echo what my husband said yesterday. Be kind to each other, look after each other. Don't have hate in your hearts. Say prayers for my baby girl.
And lastly tonight, tributes continue to pour in for double Oscar-winning actress and former Labour MP Glenda Jackson, who's died at the age of 87. She died peacefully this morning at her home in London with her family by her side. She gave up acting to join the House of Commons, where she remained as an MP for 23 years. Glenda Jackson, who died today. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. You're with GB News. Time now for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, the People's presenter, and I'm joined by the finest slice of gammon you'll ever see on TV, though probably not on the BBC. It's Leo Kearse. They weren't cutting because they weren't sure who I meant. And the best boat-dwelling comedian in the country until I get my yacht. It's Cressida Wetton.
How am I gammony? Look at my tan.
Well, do you know what it was? It was meant to be you and Francis, and I wrote a double gammon intro, but then Francis is too important to be here, so I had to rewrite it, basically, and I put something about boats.
I could be gammon if I wanted.
Yeah, you're the female gammon.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, it won't help your comedy career that I've said that, but... All right, well, let's have a look at these front pages that are going to be very, very Boris-y. Let's start with the Daily Mail, and they've gone with Tory revolt over vindictive bid to ban Boris. Interesting angle. The Telegraph, Johnson allies vow to oust MPs who vote for his censure. Similar angle. The Eye, he lied and lied and lied. Not very subtle. The Guardian, the verdict on Johnson. The Financial Times with a different story. Moscow to seize naughty Western assets in retaliation for sanctions. And the Times, end of the road for Johnson. And those were the front pages. All right, so let's start with the Mail, Leo. What do you think, Boris?
So, yes, there's Tories revolt over vindictive bid to banish Boris. There's civil war in the Tory party. Just when Rishi needs everybody to sort of pull together, show some unity in the face of the juggernaut of Keir Starmer's Labour coming to take all their seats. And they're not getting it. So Boris's allies are furious that he's been, this committee has found him guilty of lying to Parliament or whatever. I mean, I'd have thought it's par for the course. It's in the job description for an MP to lie to Parliament.
Mislead, Leo.
Mislead, whatever.
Did you think mislead already implied intention? Because the whole thing is he misled them, but he said not intentionally. Right. I always thought mislead kind of vaguely meant intentionally, but...
I'm more worried that he misled me as a voter. Like he promised lower taxes, lower immigration. Where's all that stuff? All those things just get higher and higher.
And I don't recall him saying, I promise to lock you all in your houses and take your jobs and make inflation really high and copy China. That wasn't in there anyway.
So, well, in fairness to Boris, he didn't really want to do that. And that's why I feel this whole sort of witch hunt against him isn't really fair, because he didn't want to stop people going to parties at work anyway. But he had to
especially himself.
Yeah, he had to bring through those rules. And then, obviously, he broke those rules because, most people did. And, yeah, so I feel like it's a bit unfair. His libertarian instincts were overruled by other people.
Yeah, what do you think, Cressida?
Well, yeah, I wish I'd been to more parties. I always regret that I didn't. It's bad, isn't it? And the idea that he's not going to be able to go back to use the cheap subsidised bar, it's quite a punishment, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, the House of Commons, and they banned him. That's the part that people said was vindictive. Why did you have to take his House of Commons pass?
Yeah, he's banished from the estate of, all parliamentary grounds.
Is it sort of like a restraining order, like can't come within 500 yards?
It feels like some sort of medieval punishment. You're thrown out, cast out of the city walls.
Exiled.
Yeah.
To live with the wolves. Yeah. It is shocking. Apparently they used the word misled 93 times, which seems kind of like overkill to me. I feel like it is a bit of Remainer revenge, isn't it? Because they've all got Boris derangement syndrome. Because if you look at what Boris actually did, he basically agrees with them. He's basically a liberal, pro-immigration, etc., etc. But on Brexit, he realised he had to get it done. And so now they all act like he's Trump, when really he's this liberal guy, just with this one thing of Brexit that the establishment can't stand. Is that fair?
Yeah. Now Nadine Dorries and his other allies in the Tories are going to deselect people who have sort of acted against him as part of this committee. So I think it's Andy Carter, is he called? Who was one of the 4 Tory MPs on the Privileges Committee. He needs to be reselected, and they're going to make sure he doesn't get selected. It's like being picked for the football team.
Do you think he can come back? What do you think, Cressida? Can he
This is the
go
big
on.
question. Did you say earlier you've heard a rumour that he might be going into journalism? Nick?
Well, I've heard a rumour that he could potentially take over as editor of The Telegraph. That's just one thing I heard. I don't know how serious that is.
I heard he's going to be on headliners.
Yeah, when he's really got nothing else left.
Like the most likely outcome. No,
That'd be amazing.
So yeah, he's and apparently he's just bought a £5 million house, so he's got to have some. He's got to have a good job to pay his mortgage.
With today's mortggage rates, that's crazy.
Yeah,
we can't be too sorry for him, because he will be able to go around the world talking nonsense about climate change, getting paid ridiculous fees. The most interesting thing I heard from our esteemed colleague Nigel Farage, I don't know if it's actually going to happen, he was talking about changing the Reform Party back to the Brexit Party, getting Boris involved and some other big hitters.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Leo? Is that feasible?
Well, and this is the thing that I think the Tories have overlooked when they got rid of him, and they got Rishi Sunak, who's a very competent, sort of technocratic politician who's quite in line with the woke blob that really run everything. Boris actually galvanises people to get out and vote. He won their biggest parliamentary majority since 1979. He was an incredible vote winner and hugely popular. And he's got that sort of celebrity name recognition, like Trump does in the States, which other politicians just don't.
Why do they hate popular candidates so much? Because I interviewed Andrew Bridgen on my podcast. It's called The Current Thing. Doesn't matter. And he was so successful in his constituency. Like, he turned around the Labour seat, absolutely smashed it, massive majorities. I think he's won 3 times in a row, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they get rid of him.
Yeah.
And Boris, massive majority, they get rid of him. So it's like they don't care actually who people vote for anymore. And then they get rid of Truss, the member's choice. So how can they survive like that?
Well,
they're not going to survive.
They won't. Well, I think we can predict that. Yeah. So maybe a new right-wing super party. You think?
You make it. Don't say super party. When you say right-wing super party, it sounds a bit off. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds like Nick Stag do, a right-wing super party.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think we've probably got as much as we can out of that, but we've basically only got one story tonight. So what do you think to Boris's hair? Doesn't matter. We'll do another story. What's on The Guardian,
There's
Cressida?
been a lot of jogging Boris pictures. What's on The Guardian? On The Guardian, we've got migrant shipwreck, hopes fade for 500 still feared missing off Greece. So there's been a shipwreck. They think that up to 100 children were below deck. And this shipwreck, it was hideous. 750 people crammed onto a fishing boat, 25 to 30 metres long. So that is not a bit... I mean, it's another one of these horrible, horrible stories. There have been some arrests. There's been 9 arrests. 9 men, all of Egyptian descent. So it looks like they may have found some people smugglers, which is interesting, isn't it? Because we don't hear a lot of that. We keep hearing, like, we need to find the people. Maybe they have found some of the people. 104 survivors, all men aged between 16 and 40.
Well, this is what surprised me, because they say there was 100 children on the boat, according to survivor testimony, but all the survivors, 104, were men aged between 16 and 40. So no women.
Well, I think they
no
were in
children.
the hull underneath.
Right.
It's pretty grim. Yeah, the guys would have been on top, wouldn't they?
Well, it's a question. Were there 100 children on board? Has not been able to be verified, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, but they've sort of put that in the headline. And obviously, it's tragic. Whatever age people are, is it'd be interesting to know if. Who was coming across, and the boat apparently refused help from the Greek Coast Guard because they said they wanted to get to Italy. But I think everybody who opposes border control has the deaths of these men, of these people on their hands. People are coming because they know there's a good chance if they make it here, they can get in and they can stay. And I think having that sort of carrot dangling tantalisingly to people is drawing people over. And the Rwanda policy, as much as people say it's inhumane or whatever, if there's no incentive to actually get here, then these men wouldn't have died in the Mediterranean. Those lives would have been saved.
I think that is a fair point. Suella Braverman et al. Are treated as if they're monsters.
Yeah.
But once you disincentivise it, you'll actually save lives. That's what people don't talk about.
The real monsters are people, all these sort of lefties and Gary Lineker are like, oh no, we should have open borders. I mean, that's a terrible, unworkable system. And it's very easy to virtue signal and say, oh, I think we should have open borders, when it's other people who are going to have to make the difficult but necessary decisions.
I know it's not a funny story, but I'm only laughing because I literally knew you were about to say Gary Lineker. I don't know how. I thought Gary Lineker, that you said it. Well, maybe we've got telepathy, or maybe Gary Lineker's just...
It was him or or Lily Allen. So.
Yeah, fair play. All right, well, let's have a look at the Financial Times, Leo. This is your expert subject, really.
So,
the war.
Russia moves to seize naughty Western companies. So Russia is to adopt powers to seize the assets of naughty Western companies. That's their word, not mine. Will make it harder for them to exit the country. So this is Vladimir Putin. He wants to retaliate against sanctions that have been levied on him by the West, basically. So companies that were doing business in Russia, they're going to be forced to sell their assets at fire sale prices. I mean, the trouble that he's got, I mean, it's sort of a reversal of what they did in the 90s when they took state assets and distributed them to the public sector at fire sale prices. Now they're taking private sector stuff and bringing it into the state. Either way, it's all criminals running things. But yeah, I mean, the Kremlin needs the money. So their oil revenues and gas revenues have dropped because they can't always sell at market prices now. And also, they used to make a lot of money from military exports. And now everybody's seen that actually their tanks and all the tech that they said was the best in the world is not. NATO stuff is much better. So if you want actual good tanks and good armaments, buy it from the West. So yeah, I mean, this is I think this is a bit of sort of saber rattling, a bit of sort of chest pumping. It's not really going to raise that much money for Putin. And also, so many Western companies that are there, they've got supply chains. So if you can't get the McDonald's fries coming in, then it's not going to be a McDonald's. You can seize the McDonald's restaurant, but you're not selling the right hash browns.
Yeah, although to be fair, so my friend has visited and they just have sort of muck something else, like some Russian equivalent, and they have basically the same stuff. But
it's not the same. I can tell the difference. The special sauce.
The Pepsi taste.
Yeah, the McRib.
Do you think the sanctions overall have been successful, or was Putin just laughed at us and put up gas prices, or what?
I mean, they've been sort of marginally successful. Obviously, it hasn't led to the complete halt of life in Russia, but I mean, a lot of them are long term. So with things like the electronic chips that you need to actually power armaments, it's very hard for them to. They've got to divert them through third world countries that are willing to trade with them and pay a huge markup on them.
Okay. Chris, any comment on this story?
I'm not surprised. I mean, what else would he do? A bit of saber rattling, yeah, it's what you'd expect.
That's his thing, isn't it?
That is his
Well, because, just for Ofcom regulations, because Leo is so pro-Ukraine, as always, I have to say death to the West and take Putin's side. That's legally what I'm required to do.
Matthew Sweet will be delighted about that.
Yeah, I'll love that. 20-tweet thread coming up. That's it for part one. But coming up, Joe Biden and Prince Harry join Just Stop Oil. Well, I might be getting that wrong. Look, it's been very hot. See you in 2 minutes.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Leo Kearse and Cressida Wetton. And let's get straight into it with the Telegraph. And great news for people who never want to buy a house, Leo.
Yeah, so Nationwide will raise rates on its fixed-rate mortgages on Friday for the third time in 3 weeks as lenders scramble to keep up with rising wholesale borrowing costs. So, yeah, mortgage rates are going up. And I know you've just sold a house and you're looking to buy a house.
I had a quarter of a flat. And,
that's how it is in London.
Yeah,
People don't even own like a house; they own like a bit of a house.
I just had the toilet, and I just lived in there. But yeah, I've decided I'm going to have to move out of London because I can't live in. Rents in my area now, I found out, are £2,000 per month, and they don't even have any. You call up and like, yeah, £2,000 per month, mate. Plus we don't have any because the supply and demand's gone mad. And also they want you to sign up for 2-year commitments and things. I'm like, bro, that's like buying. Why would I sign up for 2 years renting? The whole point is I can leave town if I want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you do want to buy, it's going to be much more expensive because of the rates are almost up at mortgage rates are almost up at 6%, which will cost a buyer taking out a £200,000 loan an extra £70 a month. But of course, this is the UK, so nobody takes out a £200,000 loan to buy a house. They take out a £5 million loan. But yeah, and also the government is kind of stuck because it can't bail people out like it did in the last financial crisis with quantitative easing because
it doesn't work.
It did it too much, and now there's hyperinflation. So that's not going to work. And also, as you say, rents are going up because landlords are selling their stock because of high taxes. So everybody is absolutely
screwed.
stubborn.
I had a look at Martin Lewis's website because I thought, well, he's the expert, isn't he? And his advice, I'm not kidding, was to make sure if you're going for a mortgage, have 60% loan to value. So
what does that mean?
It means you've got to have a 40% deposit. That's his best advice.
Have loads of money in your bank.
Have loads of money and you'll get a lower rate.
Have worked harder in your 20s. That's the advice.
Here's another thing I did. I looked at properties in places that aren't London, and that does help.
Right.
You can buy a whole flat in Durham for 50 grand, which always confuses me because Durham looks lovely. I don't know why it's cheap.
Yeah, no,
just because it's
the northeast is beautiful. I mean, that's the thing. The rest of the UK is beautiful, and London is a horrible place.
But I have to do it. Well, this job, basically. It finishes at 12, so you've got to be able to go. I'm basically going to have to pick one of the awful commuter towns, like the least awful one. No offence to people who live in all those places. But anyway, London is forcing us out of it. But there's also this issue. I mean, 120,000 people are coming off fixed-rate mortgages, and so they're having to now remortgage. And they're going, oh, it's radically higher than when of course, that was to get inflation down, but now we seem to have high interest rates and inflation. I'm no expert, but did it work? I mean, it doesn't seem to.
Well, I mean, the good thing from your point of view is, you know, some of those people might be unable to keep up the mortgage payments, so they'll become homeless, and then you can possibly
come
buy
in
their flat.
And they're desperately trying to sell.
Yeah, or you could buy a quarter of their flat, or whatever people do these days.
Yeah, a quarter. It's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, is that everything on that? Anything to add, Cresta? You live on a boat, so obviously you're desperate to live on dry land and just... You're saying, like, oh, I'll only live in London. Surely for you, any land is a bonus.
No, I like London. Look, I like London so much that I'm prepared to live without conventional domestic plumbing in order to stay here. I think I've demonstrated how much I love London.
You say you like London, but you sort of live out on the sea. You could be anywhere.
I live on the sea. I live on the canal.
Can you gamble at any time because there's no law?
Oh, and have pirate? No, there's laws of the canal. We're largely subject to the same rules as you.
Right. It's quite funny that you are desperate to live in London, but you're actually on the water. You could be anywhere, really. But anyway, I'll stop making those jokes. Soon I'll have to, because when you buy, that's a whole strain of my comedy over. Can you develop something else funny about your life, and I can use that? Thank you. All right. Stick it with the Telegraph. And over 60s will continue to receive free prescriptions. Another lucky break for the luckiest generation ever, Cressida.
Yeah, pretty much. Over 60s to keep free prescriptions at a cost of £6 billion to the taxpayer. So over 60s are going to continue to receive free prescriptions on the NHS after a government U-turn. So they were going to change the rules and make it so that you pay for prescriptions if you're still of working age. But they're not going to do that, which is great, isn't it, for people between 60 and 65? It'll help them with the cost of living. But as you've pointed out, they may not be the section of society that most needs it. However, they may be the section of society that are most likely to vote for the Tories. So there might be a link there.
That is exactly it. It's the Tory, they desperately need votes more than ever. Like, oh, what can we do? Reverse this. It'll cost the taxpayer $6 billion. Yeah, we need some votes. Yeah. And of course, like you say, it can be people that really in need, but we all know people who are sort of basically well off at 60 and they got all these free bus passes and free travel, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of people, if you bought property at any point in your life and you're aged, you know, between 60 and 65, then yeah, you're sitting pretty. You're basically a millionaire. So yeah, some people in that age bracket, you know, don't really need the free prescriptions, and some people really do. So yeah, I mean, they could make it means tested, but then I feel like when it's means tested, then it adds a layer of bureaucracy that costs more than just chucking it away for free.
Apparently, only 1 in 10 prescriptions are paid for anyway.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
People just nick the other ones. You can just nick stuff now.
That's the rules. I was really amazed to read that. So.
All right, well, that seems to have sort of dried up that story, so let's move on. I mean, it's prescriptions, what can you really say? Let's do the Times now, and student loan debt reaches record levels. All those YouTube classes during lockdown weren't free, Leo, come on.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, students pay so much for their university courses and don't get anything. The outstanding student loan balance for higher education has reached a record £205 billion in England. That's not per student, that's in total, but that's still a huge amount. It's pretty close to the total like household debt level, apparently. So the average student started the repayment of student loans who started the repayment of student loans in the last year owed almost £45,000. And I think, you know, some people are saying, oh, it should be free, the government should pay for everybody to go to university. No, they shouldn't. Number one, university is rubbish. All these, like, there's maybe a few things you can do, like law, being a doctor, something like that, something that's actually useful to society.
Media studies.
Yeah, media studies, gender studies.
Here's the thing, if you're going to go to university and your course is called something studies, there's no plumbing studies. Like, just that's the rule.
Yeah. They used to wheel out golf course management as a sort of joke course. That actually seems quite practical, doesn't it? You'll learn to manage a golf. It can't be easy.
And you know what that job is.
Grass is very hard to maintain on the greens.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done that degree, golf course.
Gender studies, I mean, well, actually, that's probably a growth industry if you get a job with The Guardian.
Gender doesn't even exist.
But I think it's ridiculous, this idea that we should subsidise students and pay for their courses, because then you're taxing bus drivers and cleaners and people like that to pay for the follies of middle-class kids who want to study some
there's a few things that bother me about the student loan. One, that I still have to pay it, but it incentivises people to sort of not make much effort. Like, maybe I can stay under the threshold. You also hear these vague ideas like, oh, it gets written off is one thing I was told. Is like when you're 60, maybe. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get written off.
They do tell you all these ridiculous... They explain the interest rates to you, and it's like, I'm 17, I'm thinking about Alco Pops. Like, I don't really feel like when I was making these decisions...
It sounds really low. It's like 0.1, and then it's like, over time, it's actually quite high.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when, a few years ago, if you were getting a student loan out, it was, it is like 0.3 or something over inflation, so it's basically nothing. Your student loan doesn't go up, but now interest has gone up, inflation has gone up so much that it's a huge amount. So.
You do have to ask, as you're already saying, why go? Not that we're saying don't go to university. I mean, I'm kind of saying that, but...
I am.
Yeah, we are saying that, but...
don't go to university.
But some people should, as you said. If we had the old system where some people went and it was a prestigious thing, then you'd be happy to pay for it, the taxpayer, and they could get grants and things like that. And that would be reasonable if it was just a few people going.
I couldn't believe when I went to university, everybody was thick. And I was like, does that mean I'm thick as well?
Yeah, no, well, I didn't want to say, but... what do you mean they were thick? They were just... You expect it was going to be this elite academic experience.
I thought we were all going to be standing around playing croquet.
What did you study? What did you do?
Film and media studies, obviously.
And they weren't the elite. Where was that? Somewhere in Scotland.
The Harvard of the North, Stirling.
Stirling media studies. And they weren't the best of the best of the best. Fair enough. All right, well, let's stick with the Times. And breaking news here, the police have actually arrested some people, Cressida.
Yes, and quickly.
You knew.
Just Stop Oil police used new powers to arrest protesters in London. Although although they are saying this won't stop them and they're going to carry on. More than a dozen Stop Oil protesters have been arrested during slow marches through London on the day police were given new powers to intervene quicker. So previously, these guys were holding up traffic, long periods of time, people getting very angry. They've now got it down to just a few minutes. So at Hanger Lane, very busy roundabout, at 8 o'clock in the morning, police officers arrived at 8:02. They'd imposed the Section 12 conditions at 8:15, and they'd cleared the road by 8:20, so 18 minutes. Are we impressed?
I mean, it's better than what they did before, I suppose.
Yeah, better than giving them a knighthood, which is what they were doing previously. I mean, Leo, were they just missing this bit of legislation? Is that all that's happened, that Suella Braverman has given them these new powers? Because I always thought, oh, the establishment's soft on these people. Did they just need the right laws in place, or what?
Well, apparently, under existing laws, they could deal with Just Stop Oil. That's what some people have said. But, I mean, this seems to have made a difference. They seem to be saying, well, now we can, with these new rules, the Section 12, whatever, we can deal with it. So maybe they were right. I mean, either way, it's getting dealt with now, or getting dealt with more than it was, because it was costing us a huge amount of money. It's costing us £4.5 million over 6 weeks. So obviously, over a longer term period, we're talking tens of millions of pounds, plus the court costs and all that sort of stuff. And as you say, the police were sometimes almost acting like a private security service for Just Stop Oil. And instead of arresting Just Stop Oil, they were arresting any members of the public who attempted to clear the road and do what the police should have been doing in the first place.
Yeah, and I find it so strange that we can't just sort of designate them a terrorist group or something. I mean, can ISIS do like a slow walk protest down the street? I mean, look, these people say it clearly themselves. There's no option. We're in a position of breaking the law, but we don't recognise the legitimacy of this law or this government. I mean, aren't they just hardened criminals? I mean, why are we just allowing them to do what they want? I've never understood this.
They are. They're a street mob, and the thing is, they're not this sort of organic collection of do-gooders. They're funded by millionaires. So Dale Vince, for example, I've just done a video about this on my YouTube channel. Be going up tomorrow, but he founded Ecotricity, which is a green energy company. He's worth £107 million, and he funds Just Stop Oil to sort of push his agenda. He also funds the Labour Party to push it in the political sphere, so it's like the IRA and Sinn Féin. And he's making loads of money from the rules that come through, the policies that come through, favouring green energy, giving subsidies to green energy. Under the last Labour administration, he made £36 million in subsidies for his company. And so under Keir Starmer's, he's obviously going to get more. And Keir Starmer's promised to crush North Sea oil and gas, which is his main competitor.
All right, we've pretty much got to be... Go on, Chris, anyone have another quick go at Just Stop Oil?
I don't need to. One of the drivers called them middle-class scum. I think that was the phrase.
I know. There is something in that. Not that all middle-class people are scum, but that was pretty accurate, wasn't it? I mean, for balance, I have to say other opinions are available, but that was a pretty good one. Let's stick with the Times. And is the worst president ever protecting the worst prince ever, Leo? That's my neutral intro.
So the Biden administration has been accused of an appalling lack of transparency over a refusal to release the Duke of Sussex's immigration records. So lawyers for the Heritage Foundation, which is a think tank based in Washington, appeared in court last week and asked for, had this Freedom of Information request to get Prince Harry's visa details, because obviously in his autobiography he said, I took loads of drugs, I was doing loads of cocaine, doing loads of mushrooms, that's how I became so deluded and so arrogant. And then on his visa application he must have said, well, no, I don't do any cocaine.
Well, we don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what we want to know.
Or did he say, yeah, I'm a party animal, and they let him in anyway?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Which would be favourable treatment, because, US border control is pretty strict when it comes to
Well, the thing is, it's not clear, because officials are able to overturn their decisions, aren't they, if they want to, and they don't want to tell us. They don't want to tell us. So this think tank is still... It's not over yet, and they always thought it was going to be difficult. Do you think Meghan's involved in the think tank? She's...
Oh, yeah, had enough of Harry. Wants to send him back.
Maybe she's campaigning quietly under a pseudonym. I don't know. It's just
yeah, well, she's been very quiet. The Heritage Foundation, let's check if Meghan's involved. She might want the shareholders or something.
Unusually quiet. She's not known for being quiet.
Right.
She's normally screaming about how she wants her privacy.
She's deciding whether to cut Harry loose. That's what I think. But yeah, I mean, this was always a bit of trolling, I thought, from the Heritage Foundation. They're not really going to get rid of Harry. The Biden administration, we're never going to get rid of Harry. They're too aligned politically. But yeah, it could be tricky for them to do it. Let's see. That is pretty much it for part 2. But coming up, the army gets even more woke. A climate protester gets their comeuppance, and a morgue manager is accused of selling stolen body parts. Just another normal day in clown world. See you in a couple of minutes.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then.
but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions, and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio, and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with the Express and the Army are considering dropping masculine titles like Guardsman, just in case anyone had any respect left for the armed forces, Cressida.
Army bosses considering scrapping masculine titles like Guardsman to avoid excluding women. So some people are suggesting, the head of the army, in fact, is debating this. They're suggesting scrapping traditional military ranks, such as riflemen and guardsmen, because they're masculine. They think that this is like excluding women from the army. I would argue, as a woman, that what is excluding women largely from the army is the violence and the guns. I don't know if I can't speak for all women, obviously, but some women who are already in the army, they've said, don't you dare take away my rank of rifleman. I'm proud of it. So there's a bit of debate. I don't know, what do you think? I guess they should modernise, but...
No, come on, you don't think that. This is woke nonsense, Colin.
Yeah, the army's supposed to be, you know, rough and tough and masculine and stuff. And I think, like, the soldier, the female soldier they spoke to, who said, don't take away my rank of rifleman. I mean, that shows, you know, that she doesn't want it to be taken away.
Yes.
And what are they going to do? Change war to flower arranging? We'll have a flower arranging competition because, like, war is too masculine. It's a nonsense.
Yeah, she clearly sees it as a rank that's sort of neutral. Mun is not really man, is it? Rifleman, like mankind. It's not really man. It's not male. It's just rifleman.
When people say comedian, I mean that.
That is, but that's weird, and that's a rare term. That's like a kind of annoying, but you'd rather be called.
I guess she feels. I guess she feels like that. She's like, oh, just keep it. I know what it is. But then apparently other women feel differently. So.
But it's like when they, you know, the left tried to make instead of saying Latino or Latina, they'd say Latin X, so it wasn't a gendered phrase, and all the Hispanic people were like, what on earth are you doing? Like, take away this. We're proud of our gendered language, the Latino, Latina.
What is wrong with the army? We've had the RAF say we've had enough useless white males, which is an insane phrase to ever be saying. And then this just reminds me of, like, do you remember that meme? It's sort of like Putin calling up Xi and Kim Jong-un or whatever, and they're all like just laughing at what we're doing. This is not, this doesn't project strength, does it? Oh, not sure we should use the phrase guardsman. Meanwhile, they're like, just killing us all.
This is a literal representation of weak men creating bad times.
You know who we need? The top G. Andrew Tate. I just wanted to work him in because we're not mentioning him tonight. So I'm legally obliged to mention him once per show at least. So let's move on and do The Guardian now. And a climate protester has a rare encounter with the consequences of their actions, Leo.
So a New Zealand climate activist who wrote to oil executives posing as a fossil fuel conference organiser and telling them that their gathering had been called off has been found guilty of forgery. Because it wasn't called off. She was lying. She was pretending to be the person. And it says she could face up to a decade in prison. However, the sentencing hasn't happened. I mean, 10 years is the absolute maximum you can get for forgery. And I should imagine there are much more sort of malicious, damaging examples of forgery than faking a oil conference being cancelled. So she's not going... They're trying to hype it up into something it's not. She's called Rosemary Penn Warden, which sounds like a more authoritarian name than you'd expect. She's 64. She said it was a form of satirical protests and was astonished at the outcome. Yeah, imagine being astonished at the law being applied fairly to you, even though you think, because you're middle class and a white woman, you're above the law, and you should be allowed to destroy people's lives and stop people getting oil that's delivered all this economic growth and living standards.
Never thought you'd go anti-white, but you got a woman in there, so it's OK. I mean, basically, the problem was, I think, Cressida, she wasn't funny enough, because her thing was supposed to be a joke, right? And she's like, why was this taken seriously? Because she needed to punch it up a bit. Like, at the end, the only joke she's got in it, she basically says, look, we need to cancel this conference because of security, can't deal with the disruption. But in the end, she goes, but there is a silver lining to all this. We won't be there to listen to the incessant chanting. And she thinks that was the big joke that made it obviously false. But it's not a very good joke, is it? That could easily be real. What do you think?
It's not brilliant, although I do admire that she's calling it satire. It's almost like she's been listening to your podcast, you know, if in doubt...
Which one?
Well, indeed. If in doubt, if you've done anything that might be a little bit troublesome, it's satire. Well, I didn't know satire could cover forgery as well. I mean, fair play.
Yeah, and she tried to also back out using a sort of get out of it using her height. She's like, oh, I like to think I'm a threat to this industry. For goodness sake, I'm 5'3". Napoleon was 5'2", conquered half the world, didn't he? I've not read history, but he seemed to do quite well.
And also the countries in the West that climate activists target so much, it's Western countries are the only ones, the 10% in the world, that are actually going to hit climate targets. She wants to go to Russia. She wants to go and
China.
try and do this to Putin's state-owned oil companies.
Try and shut down the Chinese coal launch. They're one of their many. They open a coal plant like every few days. Like, try and go to the red ribbon opening of that. Go on.
Quite bold if she's watching, which she probably isn't. You know, who knows? Maybe she'll do something like that next. You might be giving her ideas.
She won't, because she'll be in prison.
Yeah. No, she won't be in prison, but she doesn't want to get beaten up by real police officers who don't care about climate activists.
Well, I don't approve of whatever you just said there, but let's stick with The Guardian. And there's a new exciting trend in China, lying on the ground because life is so awful, Cressida.
Glum Chinese graduates go viral with pictures of misery amid jobs anxiety. So these millions of young Chinese graduates, they've got their degrees, and rather than the traditional joyful posing with their gowns and stuff, they've started doing these kind of satirical, really miserable pictures with them just lying on the ground, pictures of them posting their degrees into the bin.
Oh, there's a picture there.
She did philosophy as well.
She lives on a boat now.
I can relate.
What's this one? Are they in a toilet eating the kitchen roll?
No, she's become a hand towel dispenser.
Oh, wouldn't the towels be damp because they're held in her mouth? I'm just saying it's impractical.
Yes,
well, at least she's trying to find work. Oh, look at this one, just saying they're sort of dead on the steps.
Yeah, I mean...
That is what I looked like after my graduation, but it was all to do with the Weatherspoons in Bristol.
I mean, that could just be a picture from any Chinese student protest when the students have been shot.
Wow, that one's even worse.
There's a lot of unemployment. So 16 to 24-year-olds there's a 20.8% chance they'll be unemployed. There's loads of them with no jobs. And there's a lot of them going to university. So in 2012, it was only 30%. It's now 60%. So they've got the same problem as us. too many degrees.
Yeah, and I just want to say for the audio listeners, there was basically a series of Chinese people lying on the ground that you were missing there. But Leo, this is like, it reminds me of the Japanese hikikomori thing. That may be the hikikomori. It may not be the correct pronunciation. They were men that had given up on life, and it's very similar. They're saying that these people are not buying a house, not buying a car, not getting married, and opting for a more passive, low-consumption lifestyle.
Well, there's huge youth unemployment. It's over 20% for Chinese young people, which, considering, you know, China's always had this, you know, economic powerhouse that's sucked in workers. It's almost as if China is becoming. It's got the afflictions of the West now. We've got disaffected youth. I wonder if they're going to lose faith in Chinese leaders, because the whole promise of the Chinese Communist Party is, yes, you won't have any freedom, but we'll give you security and a job and economic growth, and you'll have a better life than your parents. But now it's starting to reverse.
I know, it's tragic. And the only good thing I can say about this as a TikTok or social media trend is that it's better than Mizzy. That's the only positive I've found.
I can tell you what's good about this. I mean, China's not going to take over the world. How about that for a positive?
They're losing their spirit. We're going to win. We're crushing them.
But they're all going to become depressed like the West.
Yes, get in. Let's do the Mail now. And an academy chain has found a brilliant new way of protecting the reputation of its schools. Just threaten the parents, Leo.
Yeah. So this schools chain has been accused of trying to stifle criticism by threatening parents about what they can post on social media. It's called the Inspiration Trust. It runs 17 schools. It sent a letter to parents, and they were asked to sign up to these terms and conditions. Some people actually read them. Like, nobody ever reads terms and conditions, but these parents did. And buried amongst the terms and conditions was a warning that any social media used by the family does not bring the school into disrepute. So you can't criticise the school or, you know, say anything bad that's gone wrong. The problem with that is some bad things have been going on. So girls have been prevented from going to the toilet, which I assume, I mean, I'm not a girl, but I don't like it when I can't go to the toilet. And also another. I mean, they're getting less severe, the issues now. But a daughter was banned from using retractable pens because they made a clicking noise. I mean, that's not the greatest, like, human rights.
It's pretty petty, though.
The producer. But so basically,
so you should have been made to sign terms and conditions that you can't. When you're pretending to engage a panelist in conversation, you can't be messaging someone else. I was just worried
we have a really good story I didn't want to waste. But the pens thing was a bit too much. The retractable pens, Cresta. But I can't tell. If this is one of those cases of, like, they should actually do this with the parents, or if it should be more like the Michaela school and it should be strict and the parents are actually being weak. What do you think?
No, I think it's silly. And I don't think they can enforce it, because as soon as because there's loads of parents, right? And in a group of parents, there's going to be somebody who reads the terms and conditions and is going to take this to the nth degree. They're going to fight this. So I think they've made trouble for themselves. And it reminds me of how teachers deal with kids. You know, like when I was at school, if somebody was naughty, we had to sign a behaviour agreement to say we'd behave. That didn't make anybody behave. And I don't think these parents are going to not put on Facebook that their kids aren't allowed to use pens. I mean...
All right, well, fair enough. That's it for part 3. But coming up in the final part, why women like rich men, why Chelsea Handler hates babies, and is it OK to cheat with a chatbot? See you in 2.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant Reed, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News. Britain's watching.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Fridays from 8, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get into it with The Independent. And a morgue manager has been accused of selling stolen body parts. I suppose you have to have a side hustle these days, Chris.
Yes, you do. Harvard morgue manager accused of selling stolen body parts, charged with human trafficking. Latest updates. So this guy, Cedric Lodge, stole heads, brains, skin and bones from cadavers that were donated to Harvard for medical research. Oh my God! So it looks like we're not at the point where he's not necessarily guilty. He's been charged. Okay.
Yeah. Accused.
So, accused, right?
Sounds like there's a whack of evidence there. I mean, they've got like evidence of the web pages where you can buy. There's a PayPal thing for £1,000. You can buy skin and heads, and I think also stillborn babies.
Oh,
his name is Cedric Lodge, which is already like creepy, right?
Yeah.
His wife is from Salem, okay, is a witch who basically runs a shop that has creepy dolls and oddities. I mean, hiding in plain sight, Leo.
Yeah, this would be unbelievable as a Simpsons plot line, but it is ridiculous. And it is, it's every single conspiracy theory I've been talking about for the last 10 years. If this guy had just killed JFK as well and faked the moon landings, we'd have a full house. It's incredible. Harvard University selling these body parts to various people for nefarious uses, even tanning the skin. He got human skin and turned it into leather on order. It's amazing that it wasn't detected.
Not even just online. He allowed people to come in and tour the morgue to choose that, like go and pick your own strawberries. Choose your human body parts. I would have assumed that getting into a morgue involves like a security pass. Maybe other staff would have said, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
You can just.
And the people who use the service said we thought we were in the best hands possible. Turns out he was selling the best hands possible. I mean, I'm sorry. I apologise on behalf of Leo
That's such a good
and
point.
the station.
The poor families. I mean, oh man, imagine that. You think your auntie's gone off to
It's
help.
awful. It is awful. And this is why I won't donate anything. Because, the Egyptians, they wanted to keep everything, especially the pharaohs, everything in there, even their dogs, all their organs and limbs. I won't donate, because what if you need them afterwards?
But
what if this happens?
But what if somebody out there is in an accident and they need, a liver from a slightly overweight man?
How dare you? So many insults from Leo. Even though I wanted just to make it so you got your morgue story, and I did it, and you tried to tell me off in the last bit. Now you're calling me fat, and I'm on the panel with you tomorrow. Wait for revenge. Revenge is coming.
Your organs are reusable. That's they haven't turned to foie gras yet.
Shall we?
Revenge is coming. Let's move on. But we'll stick with The Guardian. We'll do a story about a man cheating on his wife with a chatbot. Now, say what you want about The Guardian. They know their audience. Leo.
A bot on the side. Is it adultery if you cheat with an AI companion? So some people indulge in erotic role play with their avatar. Others just want friendship. But for those with a real-life partner, does this amount to infidelity? So this is AI. You have these AI chatbots. You can go and talk to them. And obviously, you know, I should imagine it's mostly men who instantly start...
99.9%.
Yeah. Sometimes it's women who just want to finish their sentence. You know?
What are you saying?
I mean, I don't know if it's adultery, but it's definitely tragic. I mean, you should not, like... Well, where are you going to put it? That's what I want to know.
Is it? So it's
don't even have a CD tray these days.
It's
Yeah,
the
good
death
point.
Of love.
It is the death of love.
It's the death of love. He's not even here, and you've got a Lewis Schaefer catchphrase.
This is a nan story.
No,
This is a huge story.
It's the end of humanity. It's awful. And there's a counsellor saying that if you've got a secret, is it an affair or isn't it? Why aren't you able to talk to your partner about it? Which some people are hiding it. It's a bit weird.
Most of these people don't have partners.
The guy says he knew that it wasn't real, but he was receiving all these words of care and support, and he was so desperate for support. He said it was like being dehydrated and suddenly getting a glass of water. Maybe he was just dehydrated. That could have been the problem. But yeah, it is kind of sad, isn't it? And it says that 74% of British people did not consider dating a bot on the side to be cheating, but this was on a site called Illicit Encounters, which is already there to facilitate you cheating with other human beings, let alone bots. So yeah, I think when you get those Apple goggles, it's all over, right? When it's got the intelligence, and then you can look and think that it's a real woman through the goggle. You're in the Matrix goggles. Have you seen them?
Yeah.
Then it's over, right? Human relationships are over.
Anyone there?
Well, they might build in some sort of...
The morgue.
Yeah.
Pipes.
OK, let's do The Independent. A 14-year-old genius has been banned from LinkedIn. So he's old enough to engineer rockets, but not to send spam emails asking to connect with people he's never met. Cressida.
Elon Musk hires 14-year-old wonder kid to work at SpaceX. He says, "I'll be joining the coolest company on the planet," teenager wrote on LinkedIn, before the site deleted his account for being too young. Because he's only 14, so he's not allowed a LinkedIn account. But this kid is so smart that he's about to get a bachelor's degree in mathematics and computer science and engineering, and he's going to go and work for Elon Musk.
Well, it's lucky he's not getting a job in This Morning. That's all I can say.
Yeah, is that all you want to do on that? We've got so many. Let's carry on then. Let's do this Chelsea Handler one. So Chelsea Handler is continuing her war on babies, Leo.
So Chelsea Handler, she's a comedian, American comedian. She's skewered horny old men, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Alec Baldwin and Elon Musk, who, according to her, won't stop spreading their seed. So she joked, there's an epidemic sweeping the country, and no, it's not another virus. It's worse. Horny old men who won't stop spreading their seed. Don't get me started on these 4 horny old men who have never met a broken condom they didn't like. They cannot stop procreating. Between the 4 of those guys, they have 32 children. So comedy is difficult. And I think Chelsea Handler, despite her many years in the business, has shown it can be hard to work up new material and you know, find the punchline.
She did that video. It was meant to be a joke, but it was about how her life is so happy without children. Now she's followed up with this. She's so anti-children. These people are doing a good thing. We need to get our birth rates up. What do you think, Cressida? I think they're doing a great thing.
We want more Musk genes, don't we? We want smart people. That sounds like a good idea to me. No, I think that's... Yeah.
I think the reason people are unhappy in the West is because they're not having kids anymore. The level of unhappiness has gone up as you know,
Is that lack of sleep talking?
No, honestly, having a kid is amazing. I had no idea. Nobody tells you it's going to be, like, make you super happy and be a great thing, but it really is.
So you think everyone should have kids, Leo? I haven't done it yet. I mean... Cressida hasn't. Don't want to out you or anything, but it would be tough on the boat because there's not much space. They could float away. Yeah. So, all right, well, Leo's recommending we all do. And you are doing your bit for Western. But it's not just the West, is it? Japan's got a low birth rate. I mean, everywhere's got a low birth rate. I don't know what we're going to do except have people like
kids.
Musk.
Just have kids.
Great idea. You've solved it. All right, well, I think I'll be back tomorrow, Leo. We'll see how that goes. Cressida, thanks very much. Thanks to Leo. I'll see you tomorrow. Let's have a quick look at the front pages once again. So, the Mail has Tory revolt over vindictive bid to ban Boris. There it is. The Telegraph goes with Johnson allies vow to oust MPs who vote for his censure. The Eye, he lied and lied and lied. Fairly bold take from the Eye. The Guardian, the verdict on Johnson. The Financial Times, Moscow to seize naughty Western assets in retaliation for sanctions. And the Times, end of the road for Johnson. And those were the front pages. So that is all we have time for. Thanks to my guests once again, Leo Kearse and Cressida Wetton. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. I'll be back with Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. I believe Leo's hosting. We do it by paper, scissors, stone. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night or good morning, and God bless.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the people's channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christys, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the people's channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the people's channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Amidst all the sound and fury since 9 o'clock this morning when the Privileges Committee report came out, and yes, it was pretty damning of Boris Johnson, and people have taken sides in a normal tribal way, but let's get to the absolute crux of it. Do you think Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament, because that's what it's all about? We'll also look at soaring interest rates, rates now higher than they were after the Truss Kwarteng mini-budget. I dare to ask, could Liz Truss actually have been right? And trophy hunting, yes, Parliament is debating right now legislation that would ban all forms of trophy hunting. But we ask, is that good or bad for conservation in Africa? All of that and much more after the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you. Well, the main news this evening from GB News is that hundreds of people have been gathering in the city centre of Nottingham to pay their respects this evening to the 3 victims of Tuesday's knife attacks. The city fell silent at 6 o'clock to pay tribute to 19-year-old students Grace O'Malley Kumar and Barnaby Webber, and 65-year-old school caretaker Ian Coates. And earlier, the Home Secretary paid tribute to them by laying a wreath outside Nottingham Council House. Speaking at the vigil, the sons of Ian Coates thanked those who spoke warmly and lovingly of their father.
It feels like he's touched a lot of hearts over the years, more than what we assumed and knew that he had. So it's been really nice and heartwarming to see the messages and the people come out and talk about how he was when they were younger and how he's helped them. Some beautiful comments.
Barnaby Webber's mum, Emma Webber, says Nottingham had a special place in her son's heart and she asked people to hold no hate. And Grace Kumar's mum, Sinead, fought back tears as she delivered a speech to the crowd in Nottingham as well. Meanwhile, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nottingham, Professor Shira West, said it will take a long time for the community to heal.
The people of Nottingham know that this is not what our city is about, and we will not let this single horrifying